Hello and welcome to Angel's Costumes Behind the Seams. I'm Jeremy Angel.
I'm Richard Green.
And I'm Jonathan Lippman, and I'm pleased to announce the chat today is with Estelle Cleary, who is our head cutter in ladies making, and she's built up a great body of work over the last years that she's been with us. And it's an interesting interview because Estelle worked here as a junior in our alterations and refurbishment and as a young maker in ladies making, and then left and went freelance, and has now come back successfully. I'm not sure how many. I couldn't remember actually how many years it was. She's firmly entrenched in the Angel's way and producing great work.
We hope you've been enjoying these conversations. We've been enjoying your feedback. If you have any questions or suggestions, please contact us at podcast@angels.co.uk. You can visit our website, www.angelsbehindtheseams.com, or you can find us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are /Costume Podcast. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, please remember to rate and review us on iTunes. And here is Jonathan's conversation with Estelle.
Good afternoon, everybody, and hello, Estelle, and welcome to Angels Podcast.
Hello, good afternoon.
The nature of our interviews is to give our audience an insight into the whole process of how costume design is implemented. And I'm thrilled that we've got the opportunity for you and I to have a chat, because your involvement in that process is absolutely key. And welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I think it's essentially what I'd like to talk to you about is how you made a decision to come to costume as a career, and to get us going and start this process. I'd like to ask you where you studied and what was the point in your studies where you decided that it was costume that you wanted to create rather than fashion.
So I started really young in my career. When I studied when I was 15.
Specifically manufacturing?
It was fashion and pattern. So it was in France. So it's an apprenticeship, and I've done that for 3 years. So you study your baccalaureate, and you had those hours of sewing, making patterns. So it was, for the age of 15, I was working really hard, 40 hours a week. And I could tell my first month that I wanted to do that. It was just so busy, so challenging for me, and I carry on.
And at that stage, was it learning to create historical clothing or fashion?
It was more fashion. It was fashion for 3 years. Just learn the basic on patterns, learn the basic, how to sew, how to use an industrial sewing machine. Everything was industrial. They were training young girls to go into factory, basically.
And in the area of France that you came from and were studying in, was there a centre of manufacturing?
It was, at the time, it was a few factoring. It wasn't like haute couture. It was more sportswear.
Mm-hmm.
But it was two massive warehouse, and I remember that. But then after a few years, that closed down. So you kind of stay like, what do? I carry on. So that's why I also went to Paris to do all my work experience.
And how old were you when you left to go to Paris?
To do some work experience, it was like 2-3 months. Like at the age of 16, I went for a work experience for like a month. So I stayed with my sister, and then I had another one later when I was 18. But yes, I was really young.
I suppose the point that I'm trying to make really is that your openness in terms of what you were prepared to take on as a young student and learn, and what that then meant in terms of where you could develop that skill that you obviously had, and then how you were presumably during this time able to specialize.
Yes, I specialized. So basically my work experience were not in fashion. It was in costume places. So because my teacher, she knew someone in a haute couture place who could do some costumes and also fashion. So she said it was the perfect place to learn. So I went there, and I also went to the Paris Opéra, Opéra Garnier,
Hmm.
and I learned in the workroom, and they told me that I could make a bodice for myself. So I was really keen. It was, I had the measurement taken. I could choose the fabric. I had a fitting just for me, and then I had this bodice, for life. I still got it under my desk.
Was that part of your learning experience?
Yes,
Was that
to
part
make
of
it,
the
it was to make something. Like you have to have
right?
a garment, anything. So that was quite special.
And then that presumably at that point you made a decision that
I wanted.
costume and the nature of working within the entertainment industry was something that you wanted
Yes,
to.
definitely. Yeah, theater, opera. That was something that I just want. Not film at the time. It was more.
Mhm.
It was more opera, theater, behind the scene. Myself. I was doing some acting in my countryside, like every summer. So I liked the idea of getting dressed behind the scene. I really like that.
You like the idea. I like the idea of thinking of you in some rural environment,
It was.
dancing around the maypole.
It was in a, no. It was like a. I can't remember the title of it, but it's like a fairy. The story, it was a fairy, and I was a countess. That was really funny. It was, I was really young, 16, and I had one line in the middle of the countryside, an open air theater. The castle was beautiful behind me. I had one line, don't go.
And you remember?
I remember, yes, I remember. But we rehearsed for 3 months. Don't go.
Tell me your family. Did you have
Yes,
any theatricality in terms
not at all. No. Actually, to be fair, all of my family, they're really involved of the community. So, it's like my dad is a mayor at the countryside. All of my uncle, they're really involved to the community, and the farmer, because
of?
my parents are farmers. So that was really important at the time. The farmers was big. So
I think a lot of that has influenced your idea of working as part of a team.
oh yeah, that's a massive. It's so important.
I think that what we're trying to discover here is that in the back of your mind, in your curiosity and in your process is this idea of creating, and also the creation through an ability to research the historical aspect of clothing and how the construction of clothing through history is able to be realized with today's modern fabrics and modern performers to do with storytelling.
Like you said, the historical of costume
Yeah.
came later, and I met a couple of teachers. Like my historical costume teacher was amazing. It's just like he was telling us stories. Obviously, he had a lot. He introduced the theater to us as well. Like you should go and see that play. You should go there, and that really, it was fascinating just to see all of that.
And this is all whilst you were living in Paris.
No, it was in the countryside. He was pushing us to go because I'm from the countryside. It's quite hard to just go out in a theater. You don't have many theaters, so you create your own little group and you do a play and then you perform in front of each other.
Mm.
But then when I was older, I went to Paris and see those big stage. So I didn't want to be on the stage. I wanted to go behind. I wanted to be there.
So from your experience at Garnier, were you able to then pursue a full-time career in costume making, or what happened next?
So what happened next? I had to study more because at the time I didn't know where to go, if I wanted to be a dresser, if I wanted to be a maker, or if I wanted to be a cutter. That was in my mind. So in France, they encourage you to do a lot of study. And then I was really lucky when we were young, all my studies were free. So I've done 3 degree apprenticeship. So I've done a dressing study, which interests me, but I wanted more. So I learned about costume design. My last 2 years was costume design, and I definitely wanted to work around designer. And the making, it came afterward when I had all my experience. I had my first job in Disneyland Paris, as a dresser, and I stayed there for like 2.5 years. And I was on show. I was on show because I was a special dresser, just go different show every day. And yeah, that is just, to be on time. And then if I've done my job wrong, the performer, it was all my fault. So I had to be, it was really hard at the age of 20. I had to put shoes on performer who had costume on ice. So if I put his shoes wrong, that was my fault. He could have an accident.
In a quick change environment, or
In a quick change, yes. In 2 minutes, have to be on stage, change costumes. But I loved it. I mean, I want to carry on. Yes, I loved it.
But I think the adrenaline in a situation like that
Yes,
is very exciting, and I think that
it is.
especially if you're saying that this is now all at the beginning of your career, it fires you up with imagination of what else is possible. And obviously you're maintaining your manufacturing making skills and perfecting that within this world, or was it
the making? I also made something with Disney, because every year they had 2 shows for cast members, just for us, and you could create your own show. So I make costumes with some of my friends, just for free, just for the fun. So that it's also, it was nice to make, and I knew I wanted to do other things than dressing. So I went to making after that, and I came to UK after that.
Did somebody indicate that the UK was a place that would give you the opportunity to develop your career? Or?
My brother did.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother. But in that point, my English was inexistent.
Non-existent.
No, not existent at all. I mean, it's just I had a lot of knowledge on sewing, but I met a lot of English people in Disney, a lot of them, and they were all so sweet. I just wanted, it's a country that I wanted to discover. And my brother, it was easy for me. My brother was there. He said, look, don't worry about it. You just need to be au pair for 1 year, and then that would be it. And that's what I did. I just follow his advice, and I find a lovely South African family. So before, when I speak English properly, it was with a South African accent for the first few years.
I think I've noticed and detected that there is still a little South Africanism about some of your expressions.
Well, it's fine.
So you come to London, you enter the world of a new world, and what? So you had an introduction to angels, didn't you?
Yes. The family. I didn't know angels so much. Even in Paris, I didn't know angel. But the family that I was au pair, she finds a stage, and they were looking for a tailor with David. So I apply. Shelley told me to come, had my interview, and then David, he said, "You special. Just hold on a minute." And then I had the same day, I had another interview with Maria in alteration. So, and then she said, "When can you start?" I started the following day.
Wow.
So yes.
Wow. And that's when we were based in Camden Town, wasn't it?
No, it was here in Hendon. It was here in Hendon in 2003. So I started in alteration.
You had a very good department manager in Maria Barbosa, who was very strong, and her standard was very high.
I love Maria. I learned so much with her, and I think we got on as well, because she's Spanish, I'm French, and when I was younger, I learned with really strict teacher. So, I always did what she said, and she could see I had the speed, and I learned so quickly. I had the knowledge, common sense. So yeah, we got on really well. So I was doing the making. I was doing in the making in alteration. I didn't stay for too long. I stayed 6 months, and then I think in that age I just wanted more every time. So after 6 months, I'll ask if I could go next door in ladies making, and it was with Carol at the time, Carol O'Neill. And yeah, she said, "Look, do a test," and she said, "Can you start now?" So yeah, that's it. So I went.
I think as an important point that our listeners might be interested in is that given the skill base and given the enthusiasm, the opportunity to swiftly move through the process, subject to the availability of positions within the various areas within the company, is something that we are very mindful of, and it's very important for us as a team of managers to encourage and enable our staff, the people that work with us, to feel that they're getting job satisfaction. And I now that we're talking about it, I do remember you at that time, and because I think it was probably your move from alterations into ladies making, which I had more involvement with, where I came across you, and there was it was a very, very busy department, wasn't it, at that time?
It was really busy, and Maria was always doing a bit of a making as well. She was doing always shirts, hats, which I learned a lot from her.
And then the move into ladies making was equally as busy, and I presume at that point you were learning more and more and more.
We were doing a lot on Shaftesbury Avenue at the time.
Oh, that's right. We were building up the fancy dress stock.
The stock, yeah.
So tell me then, what was the point that you decided that you were going to step into the freelance world?
The freelance work, well, probably stay another 2 years, I think. And then it's when, after Wicked, I think, we decided to do another workroom, upstairs, just for Wicked. Yeah. That was fascinating. And just to see Wicked, it was the first Wicked. I just loved it. And I just wanted to do something else differently. It's like, well, I'm about to get married. You just may as well to do it. So that's what I did. And I went on the Duchess.
For Michael O'Connor.
For Michael O'Connor, yes. And I had my friend Jane Bogonovich is a really, she's a senior maker, and she's been all over the places, and she was there. So I was lucky to be in the same workroom as her. And then that's where I met Anne Masgray. She was a cutter at the time. And I just met this new universe of freelancing. But that was not the same. Freelancing was mad. It's like you have to stay. It's not like you come at 9 and you finish at 5. It was long hours. But I didn't mind because I was young. I didn't mind. I just wanted to learn more. And I also had my other friend, Sophie Bugeaud, who used to work at Angel. And they were so talented, to bring the talent all together.
She was more to do with costume assisting, wasn't she? Or was she making at that time?
Yes. But Sophie, she liked making little details, little buttons, little things.
Yeah.
So she bring that to the film as well, as a style.
And were you having to travel out to the studio for the workroom, or was it?
I was cycling. From home.
Where were you cycling to?
It was to an old studio it's demolished now, but it was in the center of London, near a famous prison. I can't remember the name. Famous prison.
You weren't cycling out to the studios on the.
Well, I carry on my cycling as well. When I was going to different studios, I was crazy, cycling to big station and then going to take a train.
Yeah.
I always carry on when I could do it. I just wanted to stay fit, and cycling, it just helped me to relax.
And during that freelancing period, did you have the same position within the workroom for the different jobs that
Maker,
you worked?
yeah. Well, at the beginning, I was like junior maker, but then I became a senior maker after a few years. And then I've done a few films with Anne Masqueray, so she always trusts me. We were the same team with Jane and me, and then a couple of girls as well. And then we had to do a main character. We've done that on Maleficent. We've done that on Clash of the Titans as well. So, and I just love working with Anne because she was so organized, and that's just like, that's it. I want to be like her, organized with the team, always on time, never miss a deadline. That was just so important for me. It's like, and then if you had to stay until 11 at night, it was fine because, you know, I didn't have nobody to wait for me.
But I presume everything that you said that was, you know, was great with working for Anne. If you needed to work till 11 at night, she would always ensure that you were taken care of.
Yes, and the costume supervisor always, you know, were really good with us. We had a taxi home, or you know, with Michael O'Connor, he always treating us well as well. You know, we had a taxi home. I left my bike, and
because of course that's, you know, that's so important that you are made to feel that you are part of the family.
Yes, it was another family. You're right.
When you're spending so many days and hours within an environment, there couldn't be anything worse than
finish at 11 and then you don't know what to do. How do I get home?
And also just the energy of the project. You know, everyone acknowledges the pressure that costume departments are under. You know, regardless of whether there's manufacturing and creation involved, to meet the deadline and the requirements is a massive undertaking. So the most important aspect of the team and the process is the camaraderie.
Yes, and the dresses often on films, like you make a dress and then after 2 days it's another dress who need to be on stage, and it's not the one it's not the one you've done first. You have to be flexible, and that's fine. I wasn't someone who was complaining too much. I just, okay, well, let's do it.
You've mentioned three jobs, each with very, very distinct costume styles, whether it's Clash of the Titans, Maleficent, and the Duchess. And do you have a favorite within that time that you were working freelance? Did you have a favorite period of costume where you were offered a job and you would relish the opportunity of discovering?
I have to say the Duchess 18th century dresses, yes, I really liked it, because all my career, all the film I worked, they were all different periods, modern. On Anna Karenina, I really liked it as well, with Jacqueline. It was a different style as well.
At that stage of your career, were you dependent upon the head of the workroom bringing you in, or how did it work? Who was in contact with you? The costume supervisor,
the cutter? The cutter who kind of said to the supervisor, "Can you bring an Estelle in?" Often when I came to those films, they were already in, so they prepare a couple of dresses, and I was always coming to the rush time. I knew to bring me where was the rush, and I knew she knew that I was so good, being polyvalent, flexibility. She knew I was deliver the job.
Did that give you the opportunity to negotiate your fee because you were coming in at a point?
Well, over the year, you know, you pass to senior over the year after a few years, but then, you know, I had my family as well. You know, on Anna Karenina, I had my little girls, so they were really good with me because, you know, I had 3 years in France because I was in the UK, and then I come back to France again for 3 years, and then I was back in 2011 on Anna Karenina. And so with a child, it was also difficult. I had the fear, like, are they gonna employ me again? I had that fear because I heard it's gonna be difficult, you know. Or you've got a child, you're gonna stay home now. I didn't want to do that. Like, and Maria from Alteration, she always said, I always worked with my children. So I had a couple of model, like Laura also in my workroom. She had 3 children and she's always worked. So I just wanted to work. It's like, it's no way I'm not working. So I had a little gaps, but my husband was looking after my child on Anna Karenina. And then
Because of course, the difference is that you mentioned Maria Barbosa, who we mentioned previously, and Laura Heinmarsh, who you work with at the moment at Angels, but they were working within an environment that was
much
easier to
the
bring
film
up
industry.
children. Yeah, essentially the film industry is it takes your life.
It
Because
does.
of the hours and the distance of traveling, maybe with a job, but primarily it's not the easiest occupation if you have the responsibilities of either looking after children or an elderly parent. It's difficult, it's tough. So I think that you were at that point with your children where you needed to make a decision,
which I made. Well, I think most of the time I was working with Anne and then Jovan Schuppen. It was 2 cutter I was working with them. And after Anna Karenina, I kind of said, I do want to carry on film, but I want to work from 8 to 4. Is that possible? I don't mind. With the salary, just drop the salary, And they all say yes. I was really lucky. All the projects I've been on, I take my child to studios to have a nursery next to the studios, taking the train with my child, and then finish at 4. I had a taxi waiting for me outside the studio, going to the nursery, and then come back home. And that was my life for 4 years.
And so tell me what was the catalyst then, the point where you decided that, luckily for us at Angels, you were able to start employment here?
I just had a call from you. And I had my second child at the time, and I was a bit tired. I was on Star Wars 7, and I was pregnant, and I was tired with the second child, doing a busy job. And I just like, maybe it's the right job. And I wasn't on Star Wars because I was on Wonder Woman. First Wonder Woman, still with Anne Masqueray, from 94, 84, yes. And I had a call from your cutter, Angela, at the time. And then, she said, do you want to be a senior maker at Angel?
I remembering the phone call. And you came in and met with her.
So she just she called me. I had to make my decision. Do I want to stay on the film or do I want to be an Angel? And decided to be with Angel. Yes, because I think for me, the first time I worked at Angel in full time, I just had so great experience. I met so many people. I know people changing over the year in different workroom, but I love that warehouse, the inspiration you can get from those costumes, and then also you can also learn from the pattern, from those really vintage costumes. You can do anything you want.
What I love about the working process with you is how open you are to absorbing information about the historical accuracy of a particular garment, but then how you are receptive to what the designer wants to input in terms of the characterization. That's a very delicate process, and I feel that your contribution, especially when you've been making garments for me and the work that I've been doing, is so accomplished and so detailed. And I think that I can only imagine that other designers have the same relationship, because Angels have been doing some amazing making work over the last years with you as the person that they discuss their ideas and projects with. And I think that all credit to you, because you have a very good team of makers around you.
But
And
I was a maker when I arrived, my second times.
yeah.
I was not a cutter. I mean, I've been trained a long time ago to cut, but I had less experience on cutting. So that was another challenge that I wanted to accomplish. I just had one experience on Exodus. That's it. And then some cutting job that didn't pay much, but I didn't care. So yes, that was my time. You asked me, and then I was like, why not? Yes, I think
I remember the time very well, and I remember having the conversations with you, and I remember having the conversations with my colleagues about how we would approach it. And I think that of course, the cutting is a skill, and it's a very complex process. But if you have that kind of brain, you can approach it like a mathematical equation.
I think that wasn't the cutting wasn't too scary. It was more of like managing a team. Like, would it be as good as the people I met in my career? That was more my fear. Like, would I be as good as Maria, as Anne? And I think I am, because I think I always deliver. I mean, of course, I learned over my career with different people.
And you've become more confident
Yes.
as the time has gone by.
Yes, it was, I have to say, yes, my first few months, it's like you're thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I going to dealing it?
And of course, the environment of the workroom that is here at Angels is very good in the terms of light and air and the position of where it is within the building. And of course, it's quite close at the moment to where you live. So
yeah, that's a plus.
It's a big plus.
It's a big plus.
And you're
Cycle, I'm going to miss that if I move. It's like cycling home. I mean, I love cycling. I just love cycling. But this is, if I have to drive to another place, that will be fine too.
I think what's important to draw focus on here in our conversation is the fact that the position that you have at Angels and the world that you're part of is always evolving. And the people that you work with, your amazing team, and the relationships that you have with the other workrooms that are in place at Angels, whether it's alterations or the men's tailoring, and how there's a little bit of cross-fertilization between the people that we employ, and that if we're always very open if somebody expresses an interest in a particular area of creation, of making. I think that that's very healthy for all of us, that there is this facility that is flexible.
Yes, because some people from alteration will have an interest of tailoring, and then they could help tailoring for a few months or help ladies. I think it's really good to have this experience.
And like you, they'll become the future of the business. And as the business develops, the costume making business develops, it will become important that people like you will be able to say that they started their careers in an environment such as Angels, where they learn so much. And as you mentioned, the access to the warehouse of costume, where you've just got this unbelievable resource to look at original clothing and created clothing. And I think that's again what a very important aspect of what our customers love about working with you is that they do have the unlimited access to bringing into you a sleeve shape or a bodice or to see proportion and to see an example of fabric and cut.
Yeah, it's really important for me to see what they think. Sometimes they come with something, but they don't have the design, and I give them a little idea. And do you think it can work? Can I do that? And sometimes they need my opinion to see if it's going to work or not. It's like being an engineer on a project. So I think I like that, talking to the designer or the assistant, and to know also the stories, because sometimes they're going to undress, so you need to do the costume really nicely because you're going to see the underwear or something like this. It's really important to know all those information, because otherwise
Do you have a preference in terms of the type of costume that you're making, whether it's for stage or for opera or for film?
I like film detail, because you can see your little details on the big screen. So I do like that. But I also like stage, like making. I like seeing a costume that in a warehouse that's been there for like 50 years and is well made. That's something for me. It's so important. Make a costume who's going to last. That's the key. It have to last, because it have to be reused with another project.
But what I'd also say, to your credit, is that when we have costumes that have been made for, whether it's Opera Holland Park or stage productions, I'm always impressed by the fact that when that costume, which is invariably manufactured in order to come back into the stock, on stage, it doesn't look like it's a costume that's got the seam allowance and the finish of something that has a life of permanence about it. There isn't inches of fabric that is bunched up.
Can be for the next actor.
Yeah,
for the next Holland Park.
You cut it in a very clever way that the seam allowance is almost invisible.
Yeah, on fashion is not that. I think you mentioned the seam allowance. On fashion is no seam allowance, and in a certain way, something in fashion, I just couldn't bear it. It's like, what do you mean I can't alter it? If it's somebody else who's going to wear it, no, it's only one person, Estelle. Or maybe fashion is not for me.
But you took the skill of the fact that the clothing is sort of made with the minimum amount, and you've adapted a way of being able to create costume for the reusable costume, if you like, that doesn't have that sense of bulk, which sometimes theatrical costume has.
And you can, as long as you got a nice base, you can also tear it apart and put something else over it with that under it, all the seams. Yes.
What do you see as being what's your objective in terms of where you would like to see yourself in a couple of years' time? Is it to do with the environment that you're working in, or?
I see myself still as a cutter. I think my children are also small, so I think they need stability for more than 5 years. So I see myself here, and then I'm never bored, because we've got different projects, different designer who's coming. It's really pleasant, and they come to the workroom, can talk to us. We can do a lot of things at Angel. I know we're not on set, on the stage, on studios, but we can see a lot of things, and we've got a lot of feedback from costumer, and it just drives me to do more film, just to have that feedback.
And of course, you get to see your work
on the big screen, and it's like, we've done that. It's really important.
Yeah. And I think you get acknowledgement for that. Even if you don't actually have a
credits, yes.
Your acknowledgement is that the designer, the customer, comes back time and time again, and you develop relationships. Where Anne now is so happy to
she's happy to come back to do another project.
yeah.
You're right. I think at the beginning of my career, I think credit was important. To see your name on the film was important, but now it's not so much. I think being part of a team, Angel, a name. This is the name. It's fine by me. I'm not looking for the fame, the name. Yeah, on credit.
Well, you seek satisfaction in other areas, and I think that's an important point to wrap up this this great chat, because what I think is vital is that that you're in a position here within the comfort of the Angel family, if you like, where your creativity is realized through the variety of projects that you work on, and your job satisfaction is very high, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So I thank you, Estelle, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
It's been nice to chat and segue away from the pressures of our 9-to-5 daily grind, and explore a little bit about an aspect of Angels which maybe not many people know about. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't realise how young she was when she started, Jonathan. That's crazy to start at that age.
She was brave in the sense that she came over. Well, as you heard, she came over to London from France because she had the opportunity of somewhere to live. As a young girl without the best command of English, and I always think that must be
it's
brave and intrepid. She's got a great team supporting her at the moment, and the ebb and flow of a room and the strengths that you can play to in terms of the technical ability, whether sometimes you might have somebody in the room who's particularly interested in embroidery and crochet and applique techniques, and then they can be fortunate to have some work in the room that requires that skill. And it's for Estelle to harness all of that, and for me she harnesses it and I corral it in terms of a budgetary sense. But we try all the time to play to the strengths of the individuals that work alongside her. A good example is Laura, who's worked for Angels for many years and has seen a lot of
cutters come and go,
and designers in and out, and loads of different styles of work for different periods. And rigorously, Laura is well known and highly skilled at hand finishing. And her work is exquisite, and she subsequently has a reputation bar none.
Yeah, and you've been building. I mean, that the room and the team that you've built around Estelle and with Estelle is a great. Is highly regarded, as you said in the interview, because we know from the customers. But the interesting thing for me is I know. This is the odd thing, and you are happy to be correct in this. Designers will have, in the same sense that they have the assistant they like working with and they have the supervisor they like working with, they do have cutters that they like working with. So when Angels offer to do the work, it is always an interesting moment for them, because they've got to trust Angels, because at times they might have a relationship with someone who isn't our cutter. Does that cause massive problems, or they normally, once they've met Estelle or Sophie, it's that fear disappears, or is that never really a thing that's come into it, Jonathan?
It's a factor that plays heavily when it's a new introduction, and it takes time, and it's touch and go, and then when the designer relaxes into the experience of the process, invariably it's produces great results all round, and the relationship is forged for the next time. And a lot of designers, customers that now work with Ladies Making are people that have come into the room in that way, handed over their work, communicated, gone through the process, and have come back again. And a perfect example is currently what we've been working on with Mothering Sunday with Sandy Powell. She, for lots of reasons, made a decision that she wanted to use our workrooms rather than setting up her own workroom, and hadn't worked with Estelle previously. And gently, slowly, a relationship developed where she was in a position to trust Estelle's input, and she could see that there was a quality to the work that matched her skill and input, and it all worked out very, very well.
No, and I think it's it's to watch that happen, to watch the first meetings. People might not realise it really is a huge leap of faith for a designer, because
Absolutely.
They're trusting their vision to this person to bring it to life.
Yeah.
So it's a really sensitive thing. It was a great interview, and it was very interesting to find out more about Estelle. And
well, it's another aspect of Angels, and in terms of what we can do that is symbiotic with the stock that we hold, but also self-contained within its structure.
No, it was an interesting interview. She's an interesting person. She is obviously cares deeply about her craft and what she does, and the whole, dare I use the word, process.
She's a practitioner who cares about the process.
Yes,
is that right?
And it's great. It's great that we have two cutters, men and woman, making departments now that have a good reputation.
Yeah, highly regarded, both of them.
Yeah, which we haven't always had, and I'm really pleased for that.
The next interview, it actually leads quite nicely onto that. It's going to show another side of Angels. We are releasing our interview with Emma Wright. Emma is one of our costumiers, a senior costumer actually, works in our warehouse. And I sat down to speak to her about what it takes to be a costumier, what the daily life's like, and it's a really interesting take on it. And as you've heard from some of the other interviews we've had, it's where a lot of the designers we've spoken to started.
I'm looking forward to listening to Emma's interview, because I've been using her to help me with projects that I've had as my costumier, and one of the aspects of working with her that I enjoy the most is the fact that she listens, and she doesn't overthink in a neurotic way. She's quite calm and quite pragmatic. So she'll offer an option and won't go into a feeling of failure if what she's offered isn't quite right. She'll move forward. So when I say overthink, it's not like, should I show him the red one or the blue one or the one with the sleeves or the one without the sleeves? Oh my God, what shall I do? It's not about, I don't mean it like that. I mean that she will have quite a matter-of-fact approach, which is sort of how a costumier needs to function. So it's about presentation of these are all the options. This is what we have. What do you think? And then it gives the designer the ability to make that final decision. In other words, design.
What I like about her is that she's calm. She isn't really fazed by anything. She copes with pressure well. Yeah, she's good.
She's, as Daniel always goes on, she's an old school costumer the way she is in her behaviour.
Yeah, and as Jonathan said, she obviously has an opinion. She has an eye. She has a view, and she knows what she's doing. But she's not pretentious in the sense that she's pushing that forward and over talking the designer or over costuming the things. I think that is a real strength in a costumier.
I don't know where in her life she is in terms of ultimate ambition, whether she wants to be a designer, but my point is that I get the sense that she's not ego driven, and I remember the learning experience as a costumier many years ago, when very quickly, if as a costumier you raised your head too far above the parapet or being too needy, you were in danger of being batted down quite firmly, because that's not the role.
No, that's right.
Recognizing the role and then choosing your moment takes a lot of learning, and I'd like to think that Emma's probably in that category.
Yeah, and taking some ownership of the production doesn't mean that you own the production. You know, it's not your show to design. It's your show to facilitate. Good. Yes. Excellent.
And here is a small excerpt from my conversation with Emma Wright.
At Angels, you do, as a costume, you do a variety of periods. So you could come in the morning and be pulling a Tudor man. By the afternoon, you're doing a 70s hippie. It is so vast. It is so different. And not only that, but you could be pulling for theatre in the morning, and then you're getting ready for a big film to come in. And everything is so different. Your day, every day is always different. Being a costumier is a bit like having a spinning plate, and then you get another spinning plate, and you've got to keep all these plates spinning. And if you can keep them all spinning, everyone is happy and you're enjoying what you're doing because everything is balanced, everything is working, it's going smoothly.